What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Action Network podcast presented by BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks. I'm your host, Chris Raybon, and today we've got our NFL player projections for week number 11. We're going to run through our top 5 at each position, discuss players we're especially high and low on this week, and we'll throw out some player props for each position as well. Here to break it down with me, one of the most accurate fantasy football rankers in the game, the odds maker, Sean Kerner. Sean, what's going on?
What's up? Welcome back. Hopefully you had fun on your semi-vacation, even though you're probably working the whole time. But hope you had fun at the wedding.
Oh yeah, definitely did. And but I'm back now. And how are you doing, man?
I'm good. And you didn't even know where the hell you were, but you were like right by me if you were in San Pedro. So yeah. Yeah,
I'm still trying to get the geography down here, but
right.
I realized that after. But yeah, let's hop right into quarterbacks. Who do you got for your top 5?
All right, so yeah, top 5. I have Josh Dobbs. I'm just kidding. Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, still in my top 3. Lamar Jackson and Tua.
Yeah, I got Mahomes, Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Dak Prescott, and Tua. Who you high on?
I'm high on Josh Dobbs. He's not my number 1 quarterback, but he's my number 10 quarterback. ECR's QB 16. Have to imagine they're just recycling last week's rank, and they'll move it up as people actually make their week 11 projections. But he's coming off a top 5 scoring week against the Saints last week. Going forward, he's only going to get more familiar with the playbook, more familiar with his teammates. Getting that chemistry, and he might be getting arguably the best receiver in the game back this week in Justin Jefferson. So he just has a really good supporting cast. He has massive rushing upside. He's been tapping into that even more with the Vikings. He's cleared 44 yards in both games and scored a rushing touchdown in both games. This is also, a great matchup against the Broncos. So just everything is going Josh Dobbs' way right now. And I think he's an excellent streaming option in fantasy and a guy that might, continue to produce at like a low end QB1 level the rest of the way, especially with Justin Jefferson hopefully returning soon.
Yeah, it's Josh Dobbs' world. We're just living in it. I mean,
the Pastronaut, that's his nickname, right?
I like that. Yeah, I've seen that one too. I mean, I don't know if I love it. It's a little. I feel like you got like Josh Dobbs. I feel like that just might be, you know what I mean. But Pastronaut is a lot of syllables, but hey, if he likes it, fuck it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been along for the ride. I've been on Minnesota the last 2 weeks, so yeah, it's been fun with Josh Dobbs. And if he gets Justin Jefferson back, you should get Osborne back too. Yep. So, and you have Jalen Naylor played almost every snap, so you have like a really decent supporting cast at the pass catcher positions for Dobbs. So yeah, excited to see what he can do. That Denver defense is playing a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if Jefferson's back, that will really put him over the edge. I am high on Kyler Murray. He's my QB 8. He's QB 13 in ECR. And last week, we were kind of worried, how is he going to look throwing the football and how is he going to look running the football? Looked pretty solid doing both. 2 scrambles for 20 yards. He also had 4 designed runs. Now, the one thing was that he did lose a goal line carry, so that wasn't ideal. But, overall, still going up against a Houston defense that is 20th in pass defense DVOA. And you're going against C.J. Stroud, and you have the Arizona defense. Like, he's going to put up like 30 points on you. So I think Arizona is going to be in a kind of game script where they're going to have to throw the football. I think Kyler's only going to get healthier, only going to get more familiar with the scheme. So, it's one of those weeks where, what did you have? Josh Dobbs, QB 10. Allen's in a tough matchup. Mm-hmm. Herbert hasn't been quite as good lately. So I think Kyler Murray deserves to be in the top 10. Didn't really see any kind of red flags last week.
Yeah, and they were way more pass heavy last week. I think it was the 4th highest pass rate on early downs in like a neutral situation, which wasn't great for my under on his passing yard prop, but he almost stayed under somehow if they just like PI'd McBride there, or he just incompletes it, have a shot for that somehow. But clearly, they're going to be more willing to be more pass heavy with Kyler back.
Yeah. Well, if it makes you feel any better, you did hit the over on the prop I set on this earlier in the week. So you got
200.5, right?
Yeah, something like that. I think it was 200, in that range. So he looked good. I have him projected about 230 this week, so nothing crazy, but against Houston, you could get into a shootout with this team. So, and you're indoors, so good spot for Kyler. Who are you low on at quarterback?
I'm a little bit low on Joe Burrow. Against the Ravens, he's my QB 13 to open the week. And, he's playing at a really high level right now. That's 5 straight games of multiple touchdowns for him, 2 straight games of 340-plus yards. He's, clearly over his calf injury, so he looks a lot more mobile. He's tapping into his rushing upside a bit more. But this is just, a brutal matchup on Thursday night. Against the Ravens, they've allowed the fewest fantasy points per game to opposing QBs. And, Jamar Chase looked great. He played through the back injury just fine. So I think we can trust Burrow as like a low-end QB1. But without T. Higgins, that does ding him just a little bit. I think we can still trust Burrow, but more as like a low-end QB1. Whereas going forward, I think he could be like a top 5 quarterback the rest of the way. But this week specifically, I'm much lower on him.
Yeah, it's one of those divisional matchups going against Baltimore without T, short week. So probably it's not going to be a massive day for him, but we shall see. I have him pretty low too. I have him QB 18. So I think, what do you have him, QB 12?
13. So 13, just outside
I'm even lower.
Oh, damn. But you'd probably even though you have him ranked low, you'd probably start him over a guy like, I don't know who you have him ranked over, but like a Russell Wilson or someone like that.
Yeah.
It's probably tight in that range.
It is tight. I'll probably adjust. Losing T. Higgins, not ideal, and going against one of the top defenses, also not ideal. So, it's just it's one of those weeks. Just don't love it. I'd rather take my chance with a guy like Josh Dobbs or Sam Howell or somebody like that. But I am low on Josh Allen, and I don't have him outside of startable range, but I do have him outside the top 5. I think this Jets defense is one we have to lower expectations for Allen against. And of course, they just fired their offensive coordinator Ken Dorsey, so there's that. But the Jets defense in the last 3 meetings versus Josh Allen has held him to 196 passing yards per game, 2 touchdowns, 5 picks, and overall, passing and rushing combined, 252 total yards on average, with just 4 total touchdowns and 6 turnovers. So this is not the usual Josh Allen that we normally get against this Jets defense. And, even though they're switching coordinators, this offense is clearly out of sorts, so they wouldn't have fired their offensive coordinator in the first place. So I think it's going to be another tough matchup. And they look like they found something with James Cook down the stretch. Him dribbling the football all over the place and getting big yards while doing it. He was playing some and one football out there, but I think it's going to be a tough week for Josh Allen. All right, what do you have for props?
Well, we're going to have some fun here. Sometimes it's fun to project somebody that's just playing way above expectations, like Puka Nacua after the first week or two. I like projecting guys in the other direction too, like awful players like Tommy DeVito. Let's project his passing yards. It's insignificant for fantasy purposes, but for player props and things like that, it's going to be really fun to see what they put out. So assuming he starts against the Commanders, I have his opening line at, where do I want to set this? 134.5.
134.5. Let's see. I'll go over.
Okay, good.
The Commanders' defense is not very good. The pressure is not going to be there as much without Young and Sweat and DeVito. Let's see, what is he average? About just under 5 yards an attempt. So he would need
pretty good.
What, like, what's that? 20, 30, 30? No, not even 30. 25. Like 26, 27 attempts. He got 27 against Dallas, but obviously a much tougher defense. So yeah. I'll bank on him hitting a big play or two against this Washington defense. I mean, the Giants always own Washington, right? It's weird things always happen when the Giants play Washington. And DeVito at the end of that Raider game, he was 15 of 20 for 175 and a touchdown in kind of garbage time, but
yeah,
it's not like he's completely. Like, we've never seen him complete a pass longer than 10 yards or something. So, yeah, I'll go over. But, I mean, what do they have? Barkley and Eason waiting in the wings, too? So
yeah, that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking.
Why would you bench him? Like, you're already tanking now.
I wouldn't blame him either direction. Like, there's really no point to anything right now. But, I think that his prop might be a little bit higher than that, but it was fun trying to set that, to say the least. But I think it was not
fun at all.
I had a blast.
Wasn't fun trying to bet it.
I wonder. Yeah, they might not even have a prop for him, so maybe this is a waste of time. But it's not quite the Kendall Hinton bad, but it's bad right now for sure.
Kendall Hinton, what a guy! Can't believe that game. What was the line on that game? It was like the 20s or something, right? The total was like,
I think the total.
31. Yeah. I'm trying to remember that. It was like Saints by 14, but the total was like 31 or something.
I don't know if we had a Hinton prop. I remember like hitting, like there was like a Jerry Jeudy or Noah Fant prop or something like that. Their receiving yards, that's all we had access to. But yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, I hope DeVito's a little better. Although doesn't he sound like kind of like some guy from New York that just won a contest to start for the Giants? Like,
for
DeVito,
sure.
out of Brooklyn, like, or Long Island. Like, it's just like, it's crazy. But and he still is with his parents. I mean, Jesus.
Yeah, it's a whole thing.
But hey, like I said, the Commanders, they do this. They do weird things against the Giants. So, all right, let's go to running back. Who you got in top 5?
I got Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler, Travis Etienne, Tony Pollard. What the hell? And then we're getting really spicy here with Javonte Williams as my RB5.
Ooh,
yeah.
Okay. I got McCaffrey, Eckler, Etienne, Jacobs, and Breece Hall, which I'm not feeling great about because he's so boomer bust. Like, and I've talked about this. It's like if he doesn't break a big run, and the offensive line is getting, more and more banged up. This guy's averaging like 3 yards a carry. And I don't think he's had a run longer than like 10. I don't think he's had a 15-yard run in since like week 5 or something like that. It's been a struggle for Breece on the ground, but I'll stick with him for now. But yeah, and Pollard's another one. I don't want him in my top 5 either. So yeah, we'll see. Maybe H.N. will come back and just put him there.
Yeah.
Who you high on?
Well, I'm high on Javonte Williams. I just let it ride on Tuesday mornings. So, he's my RB5. And for good reason, too. Similar to Breece Hall, we've seen Javonte just slowly work his way into the lead role, coming back from, a significant injury last year, an ACL tear. But lately, he's been dominating, the rushing work. And while he doesn't run, as many routes as you'd like for lead back, he still gets targeted very heavily on those routes when he's on the field, right around like a 30% rate. So that it still allows him to get, 3 to 4 receptions a game. Plus, over this 3-game win streak, the Broncos have definitely been leaning on the run, not just because they had a leading game script. They had the 9th highest early down run rate in neutral situations. So they're definitely trying to run the ball a lot more. They're slight home favorites here. So there's just a lot of different factors why he's, popping in my model. And yeah, it's pretty tight, from like RB5 to like RB14. It's like less than a point separating everybody. So his rank could go down a bit. But as of now, he's checking all the right boxes. And like I said, just seeing enough work in the passing game to give him that top 5 upside. So I'm high on him. And then, we're kind of souring on Tony Pollard for good reason, but that's kind of why I'm high on Rico Dowdle right now. He's my RB 40 right now, so it's not like I'm projecting him as an RB3 flex option quite yet. But, if Pollard does continue to struggle, Dowdle has been the more efficient runner. He could start to eat into Pollard's workload, even in non-blowout games. So he's essentially turning into the Tony Pollard from last year and Pollard's Zeke Elliott. So, we could see him split more work. And I don't think he has the same chances of leapfrogging Pollard as, say, like a Chuba Hubbard or Devin Singletary that we were talking about a few weeks ago. But it's definitely a non-zero chance. And this week against the Panthers, Cowboys are big favorites. This is a great matchup for running backs. You can get away with playing Dowdle as like an RB3 flex play, but I just think right now he has RB2 injury upside at least, playing behind Pollard. So he's worth a stash right now, and who knows, he could carve out a role where he's, producing flex value even with the healthy Pollard. So having said that, I'm high on Dowdle, short-term for this matchup and potentially long-term.
Yeah, Carolina's been one of the worst run defenses in the league this year. I am high on Jaylen Warren. Jaylen Warren, he is kind of doing what we thought he would do in the offseason, and that's leapfrog Najee Harris. Now you're starting to get Tomlin essentially saying, hey, yeah, like this guy's going to be our starting running back. So I'm expecting Warren's usage to continue to go up. It's a tough matchup against Cleveland, but I still think, he should be ranked above Harris, and he's still not an ECR. So like him, he had 50%, ran around on 50% of the dropbacks last week and had one fewer carry than Najee Harris. So this week, I think you probably see Warren get more carries and continue to run more routes. So he is inside my top 25 running backs for this week. Najee is not. So like
Love
Warren. It. Yeah, man. Finally.
What was Tomlin's exact quote? Was he I didn't see that. He's saying he is absolutely our starter, or was he kind of just alluding to it, or? So he
was announced as the starter, in the game or whatever, I guess.
Oh, okay.
So that was last week, and he got his highest, highest workload. He essentially was equal in carries and ran more routes. So he had his highest workload of the season. Said Tomlin told him he was a starter the night before.
Oh, wow.
So
nice. Yeah. And George Pickens was not announced as a starter. He was complaining about not seeing enough targets, so Tomlin didn't let him get announced as the starters. You saw that too.
Geez, I actually did not see that.
Oh yeah,
I'm not surprised. I mean, Pickens is that after that blow up on the Thursday night game. I'm not surprised. He's been he's still a young guy, and Tom is going to kind of give him some tough love.
Exactly.
But yeah, no, Jaylen Warren. I mean, finally this guy, because he was already kind of coming out of the bye, inching up there a little bit in terms of his workload, but last week was the first time where he really kind of drew even with Najee in carries and then surpassed him in routes. So yeah, I like him to continue to do that. Who are you low on?
I'm low on Saquon Barkley again. I have him RB22. ECR has him RB12 for some reason. I mentioned I was low on him last week, and it has nothing to do with Barkley specifically. Just with Tommy DeVito under center, that's just a huge drop off from Daniel Jones and Tyrod Taylor even. So this offense just will not function in a way that will set up Barkley for success. Early on in the game, teams can just focus more on slowing down Barkley. And then later in the game, when we could see dump offs to Barkley, why even risk it and have him out there? So that's kind of what we saw. They took him out pretty early last week. He's still a low end RB2, I think, just based on talent alone. But running backs, they do need their offense to be successful and set them up, for some success. That just isn't happening for him right now. And another stud running back that I'm low on is Derrick Henry against the Jaguars. He's my RB17 right now. He's coming off a dud where Tajay Spears again outscored him. Just thanks to being a trailing game script. That's typically going to be much better for Spears. Could be a similar situation this week, as the Titans are close to 7-point underdogs against the Jaguars, who rank 3rd in DVOA against the run. So it's going to be tough for Henry even early in the game to get going. So as of now, for this matchup, I view him as more of a mid-range RB2 than RB1, which is where ECR has him right now.
Yeah, it's been a tough year for Henry. I think he hasn't looked bad. It's just, and he has been a little more involved in the pass game, but like his underlying usage is just not quite where it was throughout most of that stretch. Now that Spears is getting kind of a third of the snaps. Yeah, he never really shared the backfield like that before. So, or in a minute. So, yeah, he is. I was surprised to see him. Where do I have him? 17th. Yeah, I was surprised to see him that well in my rankings as well. I'm low on Najee Harris. Kind of just explained it for this kind of backfield. You're starting to see a changing of the guard here, and it's not an easy matchup. So I don't, some of those matchups like last week against Green Bay, you saw both backs be productive, but in this one, Cleveland's number 1 in DVOA against the run. They're 6th in DVOA on passes to running backs. So it's going to be tough. And if Pittsburgh gets down in the game, you could see an even a bigger split with, Warren, seeing a lot more snaps, because I think he's kind of the preferred, passing down back, more explosive guy. Najee's probably going to get more work if they're in clock killing mode. And I mean, Steelers are the underdog Tomlin spot, so I'm not going to count the Steelers positive game script out at all. But still, in terms of a medium projection, Najee Harris, I have him outside the top 30. He's still in the top, just outside the top 25 in the ECR. So I think he's probably going to keep dropping as more people kind of look at the numbers from last week and how the snaps broke down. But overall, yeah, I think Najee is tough, because I know he was drafted pretty high, right? What, top
low end
top
RB
15 or 20? Yeah, top 15.
Oh,
20,
definitely
right?
top 15. Yeah. He had to be RB 12 or 13 in ADP.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as somebody with a shitload of Jalen Warren shares, it's about damn time. Not that Najee has looked bad this year, just Warren looks better.
Absolutely. And he has, I mean, that's been the issue, last year too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, by the way, how about that Keaton Mitchell prop you said?
Oh my God.
He had it and then he lost it.
So he had 39 yards on the first play of the game. I think, okay. What? And what did he do? Like 3?
He lost like 5 yards on the next 2 carries, and I won.
And that was it. I did see. I mean, he was playing through the hamstring injury. I saw Harbaugh say they want to get him more touches going forward. No shit. But he also had a long reception too. So I had no idea that I lost that bet.
Yeah, it was. I couldn't believe it either. I looked at like, what? But I told you he was probably only going to get like RB3. Like he only got like 4 or 5 touches.
And I said, I don't care. He could still pop off for a big run.
Did.
We were both. Yeah. It was a classic situation. We were both right.
Both right.
You won the bet fair and square, but damn, he does deserve more work going forward. Hopefully this hamstring injury does go away soon. I'm a bit worried that they plan such a short week. But yeah, he just looks explosive out there. And I think Gus Edwards still has his role, but Mitchell can absolutely overtake this backfield over the next couple weeks.
Well, that's good, because we are going to go with a Keaton Mitchell prop.
Oh, again. No.
So he had last week he had 71 yards on 4 touches. The week before he had 134 yards on 10 touches.
Yeah.
Whew.
Kudos to you for trying to set this line. I don't know what I'd put it at.
Yeah, I'm looking at my projections now, and I'm trying to see like how I might further update them.
Yourself.
44.5.
I wrote down 47.5. 44.5 is a really good number. I want to be investing in his over though, so give me the over.
Yeah, I figured that's where you'd go.
But they have Gus Edwards at 47.5 yards, which I think is a bit too high. I think it's a bit too high.
I have him. I have him 48. So I mean, that's just to open a week. But yeah, I have him I have him right on around there.
So
I do have Mitchell getting a bump from last week in just a taking dive, but
I'm thinking though with that prop they will have Mitchell, like I'm assuming we'll get props on him around 34.5 yards or right around the line I set last week. I think that's where it's going to be, and I probably wouldn't touch that. I think I would be more interested in like a rushing plus receiving yards prop for him. Just one more path for a big play for him. I think that's kind of the market I would rather invest in him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he had that 39-yard run and still ended up with 34 yards last week.
Yeah, but he had a big reception too. So
exactly. So you want the chance to hit both. The holiday season is right around the corner, and it's about to get busy. Don't let that stop you from sticking to your habits and being the best version of yourself. That's where our friends at Caldera Lab come in. 1 minute in the morning, 1 minute at night can be all the difference you need for clearer skin. These guys are the best at the skincare game, and with an easy routine, you keep your face looking fresh no matter your schedule. It's just 3 steps. 1 is the clean slate, which is a face wash to start and end your day. 2, the base layer, which is a daily moisturizer to hydrate your skin. And 3 is the good, which is an eye serum you can put on at night to help your skin look tighter and smoother. Plus, what's a better gift than clear skin? Join the 100,000 men who trust Caldera Lab to show your best self this holiday season. And just for our listeners, we have an exclusive deal. Use code TAN at calderalab.com for 20% off right now. That's 20% off with code TAN at calderalab.com. Make unforgettable first impressions with Caldera Lab. Wide receiver, top 5, who you got?
Tyreek Hill, A.J. Brown, Keenan Allen, Jamar Chase, and CeeDee Lamb. I think that breaks a 23-week streak of Stephon Diggs being in my top 5.
Tough matchup. I mean, he did get 10 catches in the first one. So I guess it's not like it's for him. It's probably tougher for Josh than for him specifically. But I have the same top 5, a little different order. Hill, AJ Brown, CeeDee Lamb 3rd.
Yeah.
Chase 4, and Keenan 5. But yeah, same idea. And I already like the guys you're high on, but who you got?
So in the top 40, it seems pretty straightforward. There's not many guys I'm like way higher on. So just going to highlight a couple of wide receiver 4 bench type guys I think offer upside, this week and going forward. But the first one's Michael Wilson. He's my wide receiver 44. So again, you're probably not starting him in most leagues, but they're facing the Texans. This game has shootout potential. It's the highest total of the week right now, I believe. And I mentioned when you were talking about Kyler earlier that the Cards have been run heavy all year, but last week they had the 4th highest pass rate on early downs in neutral situations. So that's a good sign for the entire passing offense going forward. Big for a pass catcher like Wilson, who's essentially discount Gabe Davis. Like if you look at his underlying data, he looks exactly like Gabe Davis to me. He has an ADOT of 15, sees a target rate around 15% most weeks. So he's capable of having spiked weeks, but also has established a pretty good floor. He has 4 straight games of 3 or more receptions. So he's like a really sneaky play to have if you're like a big underdog. Like I rather play a guy like him than like an Elijah Moore type who's more of a safer high floor option. So it's always good to have like the Michael Wilson types in your back pocket, similar like Deshaun Jackson or Robbie Anderson, guys like that. I think he's kind of in that mold. And the other guy's Jalen Guyton. He's my wide receiver 56. ECR still has him outside the top 70. I think they're just recycling last week's rank. He's going to be much higher once people update their projections. But I was on him last week after that 0 catch game because he was running route on 75% of Herbert's dropbacks, and Quentin Johnson just might not be ready to step up as the number 2 receiver. So Guyton could be that guy. And last week, he had a solid 4 catch, 41-yard game with a touchdown. So he's another just high upside wide receiver 4, where some weeks he might be Herbert's number 2 target, number 2 or number 3 target. So he's worth a flyer again. If you're more of an underdog type, I think he has a high ceiling. But he's definitely some guy to stash in deeper leagues.
Yeah, man. You just won that. I think I set the line at like 36.5, and he would finish like 34.
Another great
Johnston.
line.
Yeah.
No,
I mean, we've been on it. But
he got a touchdown though.
So
he had a much better game. He scored the touchdown, but mid-30s is probably his median right now, which isn't great, but he should only get better.
Yeah. No, like Wilson too, good time to start investing in. Always want to start to invest in these rookies, second half of the season. Speaking of which, I mean, it's just rinse and repeat every week. Tank Dell for me. He's my wide receiver 10. He's wide receiver 22 in ECR. I don't get it. And I have him number 10 with Nico Collins projected to return. So nice. I just think that you have Kyler Murray back. That adds a little bit of life to the Arizona pass offense. You're not going to necessarily get in as much of a run heavy game script as you might if Arizona was still I don't want to say Dobbs, but he wasn't great for that last month with the Cardinals. So but they're 30th in pass defense DVOA, and Tank Dell is on the year the wide receiver 16 in points per game. But remember, he had a couple of games where he got hurt, and in that first game of the year he wasn't really playing as much because they had Woods and Brown starting, and then he had another game where he got hurt. So he had 2 games under 50% routes run, and he's still the wide receiver 16 in points per game. And that's because, since coming back from that concussion, he's run a route on an average of 92% of the dropbacks, and he's been above 82% in every other game. So he has 2 games under 50, but 82, 84, 82 in the first half, before going down, and then 93, 87, 98% since coming back. So, he's whether Nico's in or out, Brown, Woods, whoever it is, this guy's going to be on the field about 80 to 100% of the time, essentially. Yeah. Like we know that. So I have him pretty conservatively projected for an 83% route run rate, which is his season medium with the 2 games that he was below 50, and he's still my wide receiver 10. So he might actually rise if Nico Collins ends up indeed being out, because Robert Woods is just not going to command the same type of target per route run rate share that Collins would. So love me some Tank Dell yet again this week. Got to keep hammering this. I mean, he's just such a good route runner. Yeah, it's just absurd.
Yeah, and this wide receiver room, it's been a mess that we haven't seen everybody healthy yet. So a few weeks ago, I was like, be careful about Robert Woods, Noah Brown's back. And then last week I was saying, be careful about Noah Brown, Robert Woods is back, and then Nico Collins is out. But at the end of the day, the only guy that we can absolutely trust is like a fringe wide receiver 1, no matter what, is Tank Dell. I think if Nico returns this week, like that's going to hurt, Brown. Obviously, I think Woods is going to be the odd man out.
Yeah, but you can't bench Noah Brown. I mean, he's just had back-to-back 150-yard games. At this point, it's got to be Woods is the number 4.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. But I think Nico probably won't be producing as a high-end wide receiver 2 anymore because Noah Brown deserves targets now. But CJ Stroud is good enough to support 3 or 4 fantasy-relevant pass catchers. We've arrived at that point. But no matter how it shakes out, Tank Dell's always going to be like a top 15 wide receiver, is what I've realized over the past few weeks.
Yeah, you know what this reminds me of? Remember
how
that?
How far back are we going?
No, a couple years. Remember when the pre-injury Dak had, or not, I don't even know if it was pre-injury, but when Dallas didn't have like a great defense yet, and Dak was throwing for like 300, 350 every week, and they had like Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Gallup, Cedric Wilson, Dalton Schultz, like all of them were fantasy relevant, essentially.
That was like the year he played just the first 4 games and then got hurt.
Maybe 4 or 5.
Multi-week.
And I think even the year before, I think like when Cooper was still there, essentially. So, because there was a year when like Wilson and Gallup kind of each played only like Gallup only played 9 games, and then Wilson filled in, but they both finished as like top 50 receivers. That's Cooper, what this reminds me of.
Cooper, Gallup, and Lamb all just top 20 receivers, I remember. And then Brown and Cedric Wilson were both getting like 25% routes run per game and like deep flyers. And Dalton Schultz, I think he was already established by then, but he was also solid. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like now you got Schultz and Brown here, so it's kind of you're just running it back in a different part of Texas.
Maybe Schultz is the key to the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean he's balling. He's balling too. I mean everyone's balling. Stroud is just making these guys into stars. That's really the bottom line. I mean, when you have a great quarterback, that's what happens. So, like Tank Dell, who are you low on?
So these two guys I was super high on a few weeks ago, and the first guy is Jordan Addison. He stepped up with Justin Jefferson out, which wasn't too surprising. But with Jefferson potentially returning, and KJ Osborne also likely returning, there's a decent chance Addison goes back to the number 3 wide receiver role. Hopefully he's proven himself enough now to be the wide receiver in 2 wide sets and leapfrog Osborne, but it's not a guarantee. So he could see a hit with that. Plus, while Dobbs has been amazing, he doesn't offer the same passing upside as Kirk Cousins because he's much more willing to scramble. He's running for 40 to 60 yards a game, so that's going to take away from players like Addison. Plus, TJ Hawkinson has become even more of a target monster, so it's just going to be hard for Dobbs to feed all these players. So I just think of Addison back to where he was earlier in the season where he kind of needs a touchdown to have fantasy value. I don't know if we could bank on 5 catches for 60 yards right now. So he's more of like a really low end wide receiver flex with a ton of upside based on talent, but with Justin Jefferson returning, I'm much lower on him than ECR right now. And the other guy was Rashee Rice. He's established himself as the Chiefs' number 1 receiver. His routes run rate is stabilized around 60%. But now that he's getting all this playing time, his target rate's taken a hit. He has a 24% target rate on the season, but it's only 16% over the last 4. It's almost like the Chiefs don't target the receivers that are out there all the time and target the guys that just play a few snaps. It's just been a headache projecting the receivers all year, and Rice is no different. So, again, the offense flows through Travis Kelce, just making this wide receiver room very volatile. We could see, Mecole Hardman's role grow a little bit going forward. I think Richie James is returning this week. So it's just a mess right now. So I have Rice outside of my top 40 right now, where ECR has him wide receiver 32. I'll have to investigate that. Could be an issue on my end, but I'm much lower on him than ECR right now.
I'm 35, so I'm a little lower than ECR, but higher than you. I just, number 1, I think coming out of the bye, rookie wide receiver, second half of the year has been their best receiver. I just those are usually situations I target, so I don't want to fade him too much. I just kind of have him for 60% routes run, which is basically his average over the past 3 games. And that's where I'm landing at wide receiver 35. I am low on Deontay Johnson. He's my wide receiver 37. He's 28 in ECR, and this Cleveland defense is tough. It looks like Denzel Ward escaped with just like a neck strain from that dirty hit. So sounds like he's gonna play this weekend, and that's gonna be a problem because this Cleveland defense is number 1 in DVOA against the pass. They're number 1 in DVOA against number 1 wide receivers. And we've already seen Deontay Johnson's floor. He had just 1 catch for 17 yards last week on 4 targets. So, and remember, he still only had 1 touchdown over the past, 2 years and change. So you don't have a ton of touchdown equity. You're playing the top defense in the league. Your floor is 1 or 2 catches. At some point you're probably going to get a Pickens bounce back. It's just you even could get Freiermuth back. He's eligible to come off. I haven't heard anything. It's early in the week, but he's eligible, I believe, to come off. So and Kenny Pickett. I mean, he's just not playing well. So I don't want to have to rely on Johnson as wide receiver 2, or even if I'm starting him as a wide receiver 4 flex, if I can help it. I really don't want to start him this week against Cleveland at all. All right, where are you going for props?
So I'm going to go, which Seattle wide receiver will have more receiving yards this week against the Rams? Tyler Lockett or DK Metcalf?
Who's the favorite? Just in case.
I'll give. I'll say Lockett's the favorite by minus a half a yard. It seems like this happens every year where Lockett's drafted way lower than Metcalf, and by this time of year, I'm projecting him higher.
Yeah, I mean, I'm high on. Every time we do the offseason pods, I'm like Tyler Lockett. That's the guy I'm high on. Like this guy.
Is that going to change next year? You think?
Why? Why would it? I don't know. Looks fine to me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame you, but yeah, he's getting up there in age, but it doesn't matter. Still as good as he was 5 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, and because I mean, the thing about it is the market, however much I knock him down, the market tends to knock him down like another 10 spots. So it's like, even if I do have him like as my wide receiver like 35, the market will probably have him like 45, and I'll still be high on him. Okay, let's see. You said Lockett's the favorite for yardage?
Yeah, just -0.5, just to break a tie.
I actually have DK, so I'm gonna go DK. I have DK about 6-7 yards higher. The thing is, Lockett, I have him high with a higher touchdown rate, because that's like this year. That's what's kind of been happening. It's Lockett's really been scoring touchdowns, and that's kind of been where he's been getting a lot of his value. He did have a slow game in week 1 against the Rams, just 10 yards. DK had 47. So I forget if Lockett was banged up in that one or not, but either way, yeah, I think DK's usually going to be the favorite for yards, but Tyler, like, I mean, just what he does getting open in the back of the end zone, things like that, like he's become a better, more prolific touchdown scorer than Metcalf these days. Yeah. I'll go with DK Metcalf though. And Metcalf had a season high in route participation last week, 94%. So that's a good sign for DK too.
Should be about that every week. It sounds like you probably have him ranked really close then, right?
Yeah, Lockett 16, DK 20. So again, I have Lockett about, let's see, I have Lockett projected for 0.45 touchdowns and DK at 0.33. So like that's what's kind of separating them. But I do have DK with a few more yards, but fewer catches. So Lockett more catches and more touchdowns.
All right, can't wait for them to both go for 64 yards and you win by that stupid half yard I gave you.
It's hilarious. All right, tight end, who you got top
5? Travis Kelce, obviously number 1. Then letting it ride with Trey McBride at number 2. Then TJ Hawkinson, Evan Ingram, and Dalton Kincaid.
Ooh, I got Kelce, Hawkinson, Andrews, Kittle, Laporta. So what a more standard.
Nice.
Who you high on?
Well, I'm high on Trey McBride. He's my tight end 2 to open up the week, which is crazy over TJ Hawkinson right now. But had another just massive game last week. 8 catches for 131 yards. Looked great doing it. We were talking about James Conner. What was it? Last year, 2 years ago? Mm-hmm. He passed the eye test. He was just balling out. Evan Ingram, same thing last year. Just really turned the corner. McBride's looking great right now. He's always been, very talented tight end, just needed the chance. So his only bad game recently was against the Browns with Clayton Tune under center. So we could certainly forgive him for that. And as I mentioned, the Cardinals were much more pass heavy last week. Could open up for even more yards for them going forward. And Houston's allowed the most fantasy points per game to tight ends. So this is just a great spot for him. Could be a shootout with CJ Stroud just tearing it up on the other side. That's only going to help somebody like McBride. So that's why as of now, it's very close, but he has the slight lead over TJ Hawkins for me at the tight end 2 slot.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on Jefferson too, right?
Yes.
If Jefferson comes back, then that's just cutting into everyone's target share. But yeah, I have him T6 to start the week, so I still have the more standard guys in the top 5, but McBride is right there for me, and we'll see how the week unfolds. But Hawkinson's kind of the toughest to rank at this point, just because we don't know if Jefferson's coming back, and we also haven't seen Dobbs with Jefferson. So it's going to be tough. But I am high on Tyler Conklin randomly. I mean, I guess not randomly, but usually not talking about this Jets passing game. But I have Conklin tight end 15, and ECR has him about a couple 2-3 spots lower at Buffalo. Pretty good matchup. They're 29th in DVOA against tight ends, and Conklin quietly has 4 or more catches in 5 of his last 8 games and 50 or more yards in 5 of his last 8 games. He had 7 catches, 70 yards last week, 6 catches, 66 yards the week before. And this Buffalo defense, with all the safeties banged up, with Milano out, it's just been a defense that, they've had to give more help to their corners on the outside because Trey White is out. So you're just seeing teams start to go to the tight end against them. And I mean, we saw Lucas Kroll being used a little package last night against or on Monday Night Football against the Bills. So I do think Conklin is a guy who, is kind of sneaky but tight ends, you can't really argue with routes and production. He's running around about 70% of the dropbacks, and he's getting you to 4 catches over half the time, which you can't say that about too many tight ends. So I like Conklin this week. Who you low on?
I'm low on our boy Chig Okonkwo. He's just been frustrating this year because he's been hovering around the high tight end 2 fringe at times. Seems like every week he's good for 3 to 4 catches for 30 to 40 yards. We're just waiting for him to break out like we saw last year. But last week was probably the final nail in his coffin, being a high end tight end 2, because Josh Wiley, the rookie, saw a huge increase in playing time. So Chig's routes run rate dipped below 60%, I think for the first time all year. Yeah. But yeah, that is not a good sign. And now I think we can comfortably rank him as more of a low end tight end too. Like I said, he's just kind of been toying with us all season. But, as of now, I think we can finally move on from Chig.
Yeah, I mean, the target rate has been above 20% in 2 of the 3 games with Levis. But yeah, if the routes are going down, it's tough to kind of get behind that, because we don't know if that was just a 1-game thing or if that's going to be a trend with Wiley. But I saw that too. So yeah, I have Chig. Let's see where I have him. I have him 18, so kind of still in there in that mix. But he had a season high 84% route participation rate the week before, and then down to 56, which is a seasonal low. So yeah, it's just tough to project. Like I'm giving him about 60, just a little over 60. So I'm not going all the way down to 56 again, just because, again, the week before he had a season high, but yeah, definitely about 10-15% lower than his season normal rate. I am low on Gerald Everett. He's my tight end 21. He's tight end 15 in ECR, and he's only top 3 catches and top 30 yards once each in his 8 games played this year. He's only got 2 touchdowns on a year. Green Bay's has been pretty average against the tight end position, and Everett's dealing with an injury, I believe. I think it's a back injury or something, but it's kind of been a story for him all year. He's been banged up, and he just hasn't been putting up volume stats, and he's only been running around about 50% of the dropbacks. So it's really tough to trust him as a top 15 tight end this week. I think there are better options, guys like Luke Musgrave that you can look to, Conklin even. I know Everett's attached to Justin Herbert, but it's just, you just haven't seen the production. If you're only clearing 3 catches once a year, when a guy like Conklin has, got top 4 more catches in over half his games, and you can't justify, like, we're already in week 11. You can't justify keeping Everett in the top 15.
Yeah, which is disappointing because, again, with Mike Williams and Josh Palmer out, you think he could step up as like a top 3 option, but just hasn't been there. He did last year. He stepped up when, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams were down, but just hasn't been the same this year.
Yep. All right, let's see. What are we going to do for the prop? Let's go with Conklin, because he's that fringe guy that I think is going to be in the mix. Let's go 33.5.
Oh, I wrote 30, so I got to go under. That's a good line. And the Bills, the Bills aren't as tough against tight ends right now with Milano on the shelf. I'll take the under, but that's a good line.
Yeah, I have it right around there in my projections as well. But I'm surprised to see how consistent he's been this season. But I guess, you're getting nothing from Lazard, nothing from Cobb, so kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, and they cut Michael Carter.
Ooh, I didn't even see that.
Yeah, it happened like a few minutes ago.
Oh, Izzy. Time for Izzy.
Yeah. The door is open.
Yep. All right. That's going to do it for our Week 11 NFL player projections episode of the Action Network podcast presented by BetMGM. For more great fantasy content from Sean and I, be sure to check our full fantasy preview episode out now over on the Fantasy Flex podcast channel. If you're into betting, my weekly betting preview episode with Stuckey drops every Thursday right here on the Action Network podcast channel. ActionNetwork.com for all of our NFL fantasy and betting content. FantasyLabs.com for our DFS tools and models. Don't forget to join the Action Network Discord, link in the episode description. You can find Sean on X at @_oddsmaker. I'm at Chris Raybon. We're at those same handles on the free award-winning Action Network app. Until next time, let's get this shmoney.